from? Did you like math? Cool. Check this out. We have a thing on our class, which is a website, and it's mrlindquistmath.com. So, MRLINDQUIST math. So just remember my name, math.com. And in it is all the lessons that we've done and all the chapters. So for instance, the thing we did last, I could click on this and up pops not only the lessons, but a video of what we did in class that day. So we keep track of it. So if there's something that you feel like you're not understanding because you weren't here, you can always go onto the website and click up on that and that'll help. Okay? All right. Now, all right. We have a short do it section here, and then we have a lesson to learn today, and today is a huge topic. A lot of times people say, when will I use this for the rest of my life? And this is one of those topics that you absolutely can use for the rest of your life. And my son Bobby, I have two sons. You guys know Jimmy. He's the one who subs here. And then there's Bobby, who's not. And Bobby, God, did Bobby hate math. Oh, my Lord, did he hate it. And he would always, always, always come home and say, I will never use this stuff in my entire life. It's so stupid. I don't need it. And then he now works in the fishing field, and he does not use math in fishing. Well, actually, sometimes with maps he does, but for the most part he doesn't. But he also works construction. And he uses this kind of stuff in construction all the time for roofs, when he does roofing and things like that. So I'll show you that when we get to it. So this is definitely something that it helps to know about. Yes?
My calculator doesn't work.
Is there another one over there?
No.
Use one of the big ones, but tomorrow don't use a big one. One of, oh, hold on one sec, Tom. I might have one on my desk here. Let me see. Here, use this, but make sure that you bring it back and then use a different one tomorrow. All right. It's the reason I don't want you using those other bigger graphing calculators is because what we're about to do is done differently on those calculators. And when you take your state test and when you take your final exam, you're not allowed to use those. So I don't want you to learn how to do it on that calculator, and then when you are given... Oh, okay, there's one there. Very good. Pass that up. And then when you are given one of these other...
You didn't have one.
Oh, you didn't have one either? No, he has one right there. There's two.
No, but now he doesn't have one.
Give that.
Now I don't have one.
Oh, you don't... Oh, what is this?
Taco Bell.
Okay. Anyway, I don't want you to not have a calculator or know how to use the calculator on your test. This is a particular, you know me, I am not big on calculators, and for the most part, you haven't used them all year long. But this particular unit, gotta have it. There's no way around it. You absolutely must have a calculator for this unit. Okay, in the function y equals negative 4/3 x minus 5, I hope you saw the negative sign there. What's the value of y if the input is 12? What letter means input? X. Very confidently said there by Christian. So I'm going to take the 12 and put it in for x. So y is negative 4/3 times 12 minus 5. And you could do this on your graphing calculator. Let me tell you how to do it. Ready? Type in the negative button. It's on the bottom by the equal sign. Then do the ABC button. The ABC button, right? Do 4, I call that the fraction button. 4, fraction button 3. Yes?
Doesn't turn on.
Call it, do the 4, fraction button 3. So now you should have negative 4/3. Do you guys remember how to do fraction buttons from last year? Yeah. Okay, and then do times 12. So you could do this kind of question with a fraction button, but the truth is that you may have to do a question without a fraction button. And if you are without, look in here, you do 3 goes into 12 4 times. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16 minus 5. And then on your calculator, you could type in negative 16 minus 5. Or, as we learned throughout the year, this is 16 negatives and 5 negatives, which altogether is 21 negatives. That definitely turns on.
no, it does.
Okay. Now, which of these two graphs is a function? And then I don't think I drew them on your paper. You take a second right now, draw a graph that's not a function. Draw a graph that is not a function. Okay, there we go. This one's not a function. The way I can tell that this is not a function is to draw vertical lines like this. When it touches twice, it's not a function. Okay? All right. Next up, which of these two ordered pairs is a function? This is going to be a function because all of the x's, all of the inputs are different. This one's not a function because we have the two threes. Right? A function says for every input, there is one and only one output. You do not get two different inputs, or two different outputs for an input. See, 3 goes to 12 here, and 3 goes to 15. That can't be. Okay. On your paper, I don't think there was a diagram here, was there? No. Okay, so I'm going to give you one. Do it now. Again, what's x? Little is to big, as little is to big. Little is to big. Had one of those pork sandwiches last period. Belly's not feeling too good. Okay. So, little is to big. A little is to big as a little is to big. Little is to big as a little is to big. Remember, big, wheezy, little, smalls. You learned that from me. All right? The little guy, x, pairs up with the big guy, 4, because they are what we call corresponding sides. Everybody say the word corresponding. Corresponding. Now, say corresponding means matches up with. Good. So the x matches up with the 4. What does the 5 match up with? 10. 5 to 10. Cross multiply, and I get 10x equals 20. Divide by 10. X is 2. Okay? Next. Two triangles are similar. The sides of the first triangle are 5, 9, and 11. The longest, also it says here, what's the scale factor? What's this, how many times bigger is this triangle than this triangle? 2 times bigger, right? Because 5 times 2 is 10. X, this worked out to be a 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So it says here that I have one that has a scale factor. It says they're similar. The sides are 5, 9, and 11. Then it says the longest side of a similar triangle is 22. So what side does the 22 pair up with out of those 3?
11.
The 11, because that's also the longest side. So how many times bigger is this triangle than that triangle? 2 times bigger. So what's the perimeter of this triangle? What's 11 plus 9? Never add 9. Add 10, go back 1. 20 plus 5.
25.
And then if this is twice as big, what would the perimeter of this one be? 50. Or 50. Okay? My niece has a dog called Fitty. She does a little chihuahua. Thing should be punted. You know that's what they do in football? I do not like chihuahuas. Watch you all got chihuahuas. I don't get chased by chihuahuas. I stop, stare at them, and go, let's go. Come on, you and me. And they go, you know what the #1 biting dog in the United States of America is? No, Chihuahua's up there. It's not a pit bull either.
Christian.
No. Far and away the #1 biting dog in the country.
Rottweiler.
Dachshunds, the hot dogs.
Oh.
The hot dogs.
So cute.
Are the yeah, well, those are the ones that are the number
I'd
one.
let it bite me.
Yeah, I got bit by one. I've been bit by 2 dogs in my life. One of which was a dachshund. It's about 11 or 12 years old. It had 1 tooth. Like a little old lady came up and bite me in my ankle with 1 tooth. And I'm like, really? This is what you're gonna do? Ah!
That's like the one.
You're a snack for Ziva. Are you kidding me?
You're a big back snack.
That's it. I wouldn't even say midnight. You know, I would say like, you know, walking by the counter, grab the M&M snack. All right. Now, I want to show you just how wrong you are about math.
I'm not wrong.
Here's the deal. How many people here think math is uninspiring, not fun, and boring, and not worth learning? I'm going to show you that you're wrong. Bam.
Sound like
Ready?
my dad when he's trying to do something.
Now, listen. Now, if you were free to do anything you wanted at any point in time in your life, you just do whatever you wanted to do, what would you do? Name me some of the things.
Sleep.
Basketball, what else? Basketball? Go ahead.
Popeye.
Not go to school, what else?
Sleep.
Sleep.
Yes.
Well, would any of you guys choose go to a party?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Now, a lot of kids think going out to parties is a good time. Now, I want to differentiate, excuse me, I want to differentiate between partying, which is very bad, and going to a party.
What?
Partying tends to indicate substances and altering your state of
So
mind.
what are you doing when you're at a party?
Well, like for instance, I might go to a party, hey, I might go to a party where the adults might have beer and wine and hot dogs, hamburgers, or maybe a 6-foot hero inside, like a Super Bowl party, or maybe a birthday party, those kind of things. Those to me, that's going to a party. There are times and places, particularly when kids go through this idiotic stage in their life, where they just turn into complete idiots. And they like get into college, and they go to a party for the sole purpose of getting drunk. That's their whole reason for going there. And that's called partying, and that's bad.
Have you
Um,
been partying?
I have never been drunk in my life. I have never done a drug. I've never smoked a cigarette. I've never done anything like that in my life.
Never been drunk.
Never been drunk. I think my dad was really ashamed of me.
I would be too.
So, but I had my reasons for that. When I was a kid and I had all my knee surgeries, I was constantly in the hospital, and they would constantly give me pain meds, and they would give me other medications, and I didn't like them. And I knew the downside of such things. The other thing is that I was hit by a drunk driver, and my uncle was killed by a drunk driver. And I believe with all of my heart and all of my soul, like, you guys know how I don't just teach math, I really get into the teaching of math. And you know how I don't just like fly fishing, I love fly fishing. And I love my dogs. And what I get into, I really get into. And I fear that I have an addictive personality. And I'm very afraid that if I start drinking, I will become a drunk. Alcoholism runs in my family. So I've never gone near alcohol because I'm afraid that I would abuse it. Like, for example, I don't like chocolate chip cookies. I love chocolate chip cookies. And I invented the whole double dunking approach. So I am really into this. And I'm afraid I'd be sitting there with a beer going like, blah, 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 and it would just ruin my life. So I avoid it like the plague. But for some reason, lots of kids, when they go to college, when they get to be older in high school,
Well, they're not kids.
they are kids compared to me. They're not kids compared to you. They just think that like the highlight of their week is to go out and get drunk. Now the good news is that almost all of them pull out of it, and almost all of them look back on those days when they get older and they go, "Oh man, what was I thinking? Man, that was just stupid." And almost every one of them feels that way. The ones who survive, because to be honest with you, like, listen, you guys probably know about this. You know about the heroin epidemic. And I can tell you that I know of a kid who used to go to this school who just got out of heroin rehab, another kid who got out of this school who died of a heroin overdose, another kid who was friends with my son who died of a heroin overdose, and another kid who used to go to Santa Mauritius and had all the money in the world and heroin addiction, and he went to rehab for that. Yes?
My neighbor died from heroin addiction, like he had an overdose in his shed in his backyard.
Yeah, and that's what's happening. And what happens is a lot of the people who become partiers chase the high at a party. And when they chase the high, and if the sole purpose of their party is to get high or get drunk or in some altered state, what happens is when you begin to get drunk or when you begin to use illegal drugs, your judgment is greatly impaired. That's why you can't drive when you drink, because you simply can't move your feet quick enough to go from gas to brake to stop the car. And that puts other people's lives in danger. That's not the only kind of judgment that's bad. Sometimes people do very, very stupid things that put them in jail. Do you know that they say that 97% of all of the people in jail had a drug or alcohol problem that put them in jail? 97%.
97.
Which means if they didn't have a substance problem, our jails would be empty. And people would have better lives. So anyway, I want to show you that there's another side to this, because back in the days of the Greeks, now you know about like the Greeks with
Oh, yeah.
Plato
Wine.
and Socrates and all of these other guys and the
Plato.
Plato, he's a great philosopher.
Oh, I think
Okay.
like Plato. You know.
No, there was Socrates who came up with the Socratic method of reasoning and so on and so forth, and there was Plato. Socrates was a student of Plato's, or the other way around, I don't remember which. These were people who took philosophy very seriously, and they liked to think, and they liked to find importance in what they were learning and in their lives. But they also liked to go to parties. So there was a group called the Pythagoreans, okay? And the leader was a guy named Pythagoras. This is just like California, Californian. This is Pythagorean. This was a group that followed this great philosopher slash mathematician, Pythagoras. There was a couple of other very famous Greek people who would do groups like this. Aristotle. Have you heard of Aristotle? Archimedes. Right? You heard of these guys? I hope so. Well, anyway, Pythagoras had his own group, and they would go to parties, and there were three things that they thought were worth doing at parties. One was drinking wine. Another was math. They were really into math. So they would go to parties. They would go to parties. And they would, excuse me, they would go to the parties, and then they would get out math problems, and while they were a little bit influenced by wine, they would sit there and they would try to figure out math stuff. And one of the most famous kinds of problems that they ever came up with is this understanding that in a right triangle, and a right triangle is a very special triangle. It's a triangle that has a right angle, 90-degree angle right there. In that triangle, this relationship always holds true. Leg squared plus leg squared is equal to hypotenuse squared. Now you may have learned this as a squared plus b squared equals, does anybody remember this? C squared? Okay. But if you're going to use that way, you have to remember that c is always the hypotenuse. Okay, so this is a very famous truth that the Pythagoreans came up with. Now, in order to use this, you need to know the difference between a leg and the hypotenuse, okay? And it's really easy to do. Everybody on your paper, draw the little right triangle like I just did right there. So the little right angle in the little right triangle. Everybody draw that. Now, take an arrow and draw it straight across. And that is always the hypotenuse. So if you draw the little right angle and you draw the arrow across, you will always get the hypotenuse. Now let me show you that this works. If this guy's the hypotenuse, what are these two sides called? Legs. Good. And now let me use this for one of the legs and this for the other. So that means 3 squared plus 4 squared equals what? 5 squared, right? Because it's the hypotenuse, which is 5. Now let's just check the math and make sure that it works. What does 3 squared equal? What? 9, right? 3 squared means 3 times 3. Now, if you forgot that, there is a button on your calculator that says x squared. That button is, I believe, on your left-hand side there, right next to the 7. So 3 squared is 9. What's 4 squared? 16. Now, what is 5 squared? 25. Now, on your calculator, just do 9 plus 16, which in all honesty is easier to do in your head. Just go up 10, back 1. 16 up 10, back 1 is 25. So 25 is 25. And yes, the Pythagorean theorem works. Okay? Now, before I said to you that my son used to use this stuff all the time when he would work on roofs of houses. And also, Mr. Golden would use this kind of stuff all the time. If I just took this and I just changed it to go into this side, doesn't this look like the roof of a house?
Yes.
Right? Like where you would get the point up there of a gable line roof or something like that. So this is something that you're likely to use. And when my son came home to me one day and he goes, now my son didn't like to admit anything to me. When he came home, he said, Dad, you're not going to believe this. I use math. I never thought I'd use math in my life, but I actually use math when I go to work. So you could have to use it. Now, when it comes to using the Pythagorean theorem, I just used it to show you that it was true. 25 equals 25. Now I'm going to use it to find the missing side. And that's what the way the calculator really comes in handy. Okay? Ready? Let's do this one first. Everybody draw the right angle. The right angle is always found where it makes an L or a T. Okay? This angle over here, this is an acute angle. That's another acute angle. You know, acute angle is an Italian angle, right? Anybody here Italian? All right, if you're Italian, do you have an Italian grandmother? Usually she's about 4'11", sometimes a mustache. Now,
No.
sometimes I said. So, do you ever have grandma? Do you ever have grandma come up to you and go? You have an Italian grandmother, right? Just say yes. You ever have Italian grandma come up to you and grab you by the cheek and go, "Oh, you're such a cute little
My grandma
boy"?
does that with
Anybody
me.
have them do that, right? Yeah, that's the Italian grandma. The Italian grandmother grabs you up and goes, "Oh, you're such a cute little boy." Meanwhile, you're like, "Come on, let go of my cheek." Italian grandpas do it too? Okay. There you go. So you have an Italian grandma and grandpa, and they give you the whole thing on? And don't they like shake it violently? And you're like, "Oh, come on!"
Like, he'll give me like a sloppy kiss.
Yeah. Oh, and you know, the Italians too. You got to kiss both cheeks.
Yeah.
You know that, right? My cousin was the #1 bodyguard for Rudy Giuliani, and at his wedding he had a lot of the heavy-hitting Italians from New York City in there. Every one of them was dressed in a tuxedo. They all came up. They shook their hands, kissing each other on the cheek. It was like looking at the mafia.
You just get that one.
So.
Yeah, keep that one.
All right. So anyway, besides the mafia and the Italian customs, let's take a look at this guy. I want you to write this down. Ready? Write leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. Now, what do I have to do to figure out which side is the hypotenuse? I got to draw something. What do I got to draw? Drew it last time. The arrow. Very good. I'm going to draw the arrow straight across. So what is the hypotenuse? Is it the 68 or the end? The end. Good. Okay. So this 6 is a leg. So I'm going to write 6 squared plus, what is the 8? The other leg. Good. 8 squared equals the hypotenuse, which is n squared. And by the way, we're going to do this for 3 days. So don't panic if you're not perfect at it at the end of today. What is 6 squared, everybody? Come on, 6 squared means 6 times 6. If you need to, you can use the calculator. 36, good. Plus, what's 8 squared? 64, good. Again, you can use the calculator. Equals n squared. Now, same side. All right, so do on your calculator. Do 36 plus 64. You could also do it in your head. What do you get? 100. Very good. So I get 100 equals n squared. Now, all I have to do to get the answer is, do you know what the square root button looks like on the calculator?
Yes.
All right, sometimes it's right above the x squared button. Is it on your calculator?
Yeah.
So you're going to hit the second button and then square root. Now, some calculators, first you put in the 100, then you do square root. Some calculators, first you put in the square root, then you do the 100. I think this one you do the square root first, and then you put in 100. And when you do the square root of 100, you'll get 10. Okay, does your calculator kick back 10? And did you do square root first? Yeah. So do square root first, second squared, and that'll be square root, then type in 100 equals, and you'll tell you 10. Okay? With the person next to you, if you need help, do the next one. Go ahead. was making points up. And I never knew that until I was like 40, then he told me. Okay. Let's see if you're able to get this right. First off, extremely important. What did I just say? Hey, what I say is what I just said. I said it's extremely important. Always draw an arrow, because that tells you your hypotenuse. So, legs squared. When I was in high school, I had a great math teacher by the name of Mr. Poten. He used to tell us all the time, don't memorize anything. He said every time you need a formula, just write it down. And pretty soon you'll remember it. And that's all I've ever done. I've never ever memorized things. I just write them down when I need them. Now, what should my equation look like? Who wants to help me out here?
5 squared.
Is she? Equals n squared. Good. What's 5 squared, everybody?
25.
Nice. 12 squared. Equals n squared. Same side? 169 equals n squared. Square root. What do you get? 13 is correct. Did anybody not get 13? Don't be embarrassed. It just means you don't know how to operate a calculator. It does not mean you're stupid. We're all good on 13? Okay. I got a question for you. Would it make any difference if I put the 12 first and the 5 second? Why not? Still going to get the same numbers, right? You're still going to get 144 plus 25 or 25 plus 144. By the commutative property, order doesn't matter when you add. All right, try the next one. Have a little fun with this one. I think you're going to get it wrong. Oh.
Pretty motivating.
Let's see if you can get it right.
If I get it right, can I have some of the tries?
Let's see.
I'll tell you.
Prove me wrong. Another 30 seconds or so. All right. Would anybody like to write your first line? Go ahead.
Oh, on there?
All right, now here's the good news. So far, Angela's right. Angela, can you make like Vanna White come to the side?
What?
She's the girl from Wheel of Fortune who changes the numbers. Come over here, or letters. Now, point to the board. I gotta go like this.
You do it nice.
Very good. Now, that's Ethan's got it down pat. Now, how many of you guys had that equation? Did anybody write 15 squared plus 17 squared equals n squared? Somehow I think some of you did. Everybody does. Listen, it's not number squared plus number squared equals letter squared. It's leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. Is the n in the place of the hypotenuse or a leg? So it had to go there. Okay, keep going.
Me? Are you crazy?
Muy loco.
I knew my favorite person. I don't know if I got it right.
I'll tell you.
Should I keep on going?
No.
You're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Well, you just did something very weird. It's actually kind of rightish. Have a seat. Okay. Let's do a little die-die here. This is kind of rightish. Kind of. Look, do what it says. N squared plus 15 squared is 225 equals 17 squared is 289. Now, are these guys on the same side? No, they're on opposite sides. Opposite side?
Opposite operation, right?
Minus 225.
I got that.
Nice. Die. N squared equals 64. And that's why I said you're kind of.
No.
Square root both sides.
Oh,
What
I
does
got it
N
right.
equal?
Oh.
8.
Good day.
Damn it.
Darn
I forgot about those people.
Who got it right?
No.
2.
I helped him.
2 people got it right. So I was mostly right. I said I bet you're going to get it wrong. And out of a class of 18 kids, 2 got it right. You aced it, rocked it, sweetly done. That, guys, is as hard as it gets.
I got 104.
Interesting. Interesting. So listen, my question to you guys is, how many of you guys are going to get together on Friday night, order a bunch of pizzas and a bunch of soda, get together and say, all right, man, we're going to party. We're going to do some math.
Not me.
Forget drag racing in the streets. Forget all those other things. Friday night, I said.
Exactly, that's cool on a Friday night.
Yeah, so's math. All right.